Welcome to BREADBOX podcast, where a couple of friends get together, break down movies, video games, and more. I'm Serious Sandy Shortbread Jr., and I'm joined in person for the first time by Captain Waffles and Darcy Driver.
Hello.
Hello. I know, it feels really weird after talking to you guys, like, only on audio devices and not in person for, it's been months, basically, at this point.
Yeah, it has been
in person. You have faces. They're real.
I'm not just a piece of toast.
Fun fact, it still feels
Yeah.
I appreciate you trying to let the listeners believe that I have a face. But you don't have to lie on my behalf. I'm just fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. It's just a waffle pasted to the wall, and we talk to it, and it's sentient.
Yeah, sentient waffle, Captain Waffles.
Some people have written articles about me on a little website called SCP.
Fun fact about me, I am going to be having a child pretty much at the beginning of the new year. So a lot of the stuff you may be seeing from us probably was filmed back to back. Just to account for that absence.
So then, to plan for that, we should do multiple fun facts so that we can edit them back. You can edit them back. Okay, no. Now, my fun fact, I'm going to be having a child basically at the beginning of the year. So a lot of this is probably pretty.
Oh, man.
Junior and Sandy Jr. Or no, Sandy the third. Sorry. Already a junior.
That's true. My fun fact is I don't have kids.
So I understand it's a whole thing with waffles and the whole reproductive system thing.
I know. I don't have children. I just have brothers. I've seen go off those plastic wrappers out into the beaches of the toasters just to be never seen again. How many brothers must fall in combat to satisfy your descendants' breakfast appetites, you monsters? As a child, I had to Lego.
Yeah. Today, we're coming together to talk about a game that was actually run by the Captain Waffles over here, which he apparently, which
it's been so long.
It has been at least 5 years, I think, since that first really D&D game that we played, and we kind of look on it fondly now as the Bucket Quest.
The Bucket Quest.
That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of the Lobster run for reasons that we'll get into later.
Yeah.
That's always what I remember. When we were planning on doing this video, I'm sitting here like, Bucket Quest, what are you talking about? Okay, we're going, we're like, oh, this is the same thing that had the lobster in it. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we mean.
So to set it up, we were given a quest to go into a city and retrieve a bucket from this special well that had magical properties.
It was basically the fantasy equivalent of the Fountain of Youth.
It gave people superpowers, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was the setup. Go in, collect that, and get out. And it quickly went in other directions for various reasons.
Yeah. So for the characters, we had Pith, who was played by my father, who was Nuff the Bard in the previous video we talked about. Pith the fighter ended up being a battle master.
Zob, the College of Lore Bard.
Yep. And then we also had Eureka, the Gorgon Druid.
War Cleric Druid. I hadn't realized she wasn't like a Circle of Spores at that point. No, she was. See,
okay.
So it's a very crazy early power move that you can do. Is you take one level of War Cleric because you can use your bonus action to do another attack.
Yep.
Insanely good on its own. Circle of Spores Druid lets you use your reaction to deal additional damage as well to things within a radius. So she would use her main attack, bonus action attack, use her reaction to deal spores damage. It's an insanely strong combo at level 3. I have since banned it at my table unless everyone's power gaming, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I hadn't realized that.
And then yourself.
Yes.
You're flying.
And
what character were you?
this was my first D&D character. So I was playing Alien Grum, the Gnome Barbarian, who was about only like 3-4 feet tall and yet had a 6-foot-long greatsword. Yep, definitely a first time D&D character.
Oh, that's right. And then we had that issue in the first game that we played because
rules as written, you have a disadvantage when you attack with
exactly
heavy weapons.
So I would have to attack recklessly all the time if I wanted to even get just a normal attack off.
Yep.
That brought up some interesting dynamics in combat. But
I mean, barbarians are always just so nice as tanks because their rage helps so much with mitigating damage. Granted, reckless attacking can have some serious side effects, but it was still fun. I found it fun being at the table with that character.
it was kind of a lot of fun, just that sometimes the juxtapositions we'd have with very tall elves and very small goblin and gnome, or just like both the two short fellows were trying to one-up each other all the time.
I remember a couple of points where I'm like, I look around in game and I'm like, all of you could just throw me over this little obstacle.
Yeah, that was some fun times. Yeah, the king, as Captain Waffles had said, the king sent us off to basically steal this magical bucket of water from a neighboring kingdom.
Not the king. Wasn't that part of a guild that you
May I set it up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So-
go for it.
So in this world, the party has, without any backstory being created by the players, consider this is the first time, we just say, all right, you've been working together for a while now. In this world, there's this giant guild hall. Imagine if you've ever been there, the Buc-ee's of guild halls. Just this sprawling magical place with all the shops and all the different things you could think of in this one area. With magic circle teleporters like you'd see in Stargate SG-1. Just one here, one there to go to different regions throughout the world. And universally, you go here to find quests appropriate for your party. And there was one for a wealthy, high-end client. I believe it was actually a king.
Yeah, a king.
Yeah.
Saying, go to this town and bring back for me 1 bucket of the water from the central well over there.
And I remember specifically it had to be a special kind of bucket too. It had to be a bucket with like a red dragon
Yes,
on the side.
There was a crest there because the king wasn't foolish enough to just let someone go grab a random bucket out of a trough and say, here's your water, king. So there was a very specific one in the area that had to get picked up to prove before drinking from it that this is the correct quest item. And so the party collects it. They get into the teleporting circle and poof, off they go. And when they arrive, they step out of a little shack area, kind of in the middle of nowhere, just giant plains with a couple of sleepy guards guarding over it. And there they have to set forth to try to find where this bucket is supposed to be getting water from.
And I remember specifically, I think Pith starting to try to kind of like get his bearings, and we eventually found the road that led to, I believe it was, you didn't come up with a name because you were trying to do as little world building as possible. And so you were like, when you described the city, you said it was like on a hill. And so I think you just ended up, well, what's the name? What's the name? And you're just like, Underhill. So it ended up being like the city of Underhill.
Right.
And so like we were on our way, and I can't remember if it was like towards the beginning where we just ran into this random like lobster shack.
So I think what happened was you saw this guy selling lobster bisque on the side of the road, and you just kind of didn't pay him any money. Like, oh, no thanks, and just left. That was it for that encounter with him.
I think I rolled an insight check on him, and I got very bad vibes from him. But yeah, other than that, we just kept moving.
Just left. They're like, all right, we have a mission to do.
Yeah, but that'll come back later.
Yeah. And then there were some issues trying to figure out how to scale the wall because they were patrolling guards, I think. Because everybody started off level 1 or 2 or 3.
I think you started us at 3 because that's when everyone got their subclass.
That's right.
Aside from, the druid cleric and
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, that steamrolled pretty hard when he started getting going on that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we scouted out the city and discovered, there's a sewer, which I recall very vividly. There was an encounter outside the sewers.
The rats.
The rats.
Yeah. Our fighter Pith rushed right in, and they only attacked him. Sure. Well, we didn't just sit back, but he just got creamed.
That helped and dealt damage.
Oh yeah, like everybody helped, but just Pith got creamed and downed.
Yeah. The thing with rats is the amount of dice that you're rolling. Even if you have a fairly good AC, if you're rolling that many rats, you're gonna get hit.
Oh yeah. Because I want to say there was at least like 15, 16 rats.
Well, the way I described it was a swarm of rats.
A swarm of rats.
So who can really count a swarm? You know? You're kind of just spitballing here.
So for that, did you run swarm rules, or you just rolled based on the rat stats?
Well, I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while.
It's been 5 years.
Yeah, but I think I remember seeing an actual, I don't know if it was on like a monster catalog or something, but actually swarm of rats.
Yeah. Yeah. And because there's individual stat blocks for swarms of.
Yes.
And so.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I had like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you're talking like 30 something rats because you just roll. The whole group moves, the whole group attacks, and the whole group has shared HP after you kill off. I think it's percentage based in all of the rolls that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like 30% you've killed off 10 rats, and so on.
Right. That was part of the problem because you can't just, like, you're killing them because they're so easy to pop, but there's so many of them, like you said. And this was early on in my DMing experience. This was our first time playing together with this group.
Mm-hmm.
So balancing may not necessarily be perfect.
Yeah. And I remember after that, because quite a few of us, I mean, we were level 3, maybe level 2, I can't remember. It was around there. And so we basically found a small, you didn't want us to long rest. I knew that much. But I think I rolled a nat 20 on like my survival check, and you're like, you see out of nowhere that you didn't notice before, like a copse of trees. And so we went into there to the copse of trees and took a long rest. And then there was like some wolves that showed up because you rolled on the random encounter table, but then they went away. Nothing really happened, thankfully. But then we went back to the city and kept like circling around it.
No. At that point, I tried picking the gate because as a bard, I had these tools because I had the urchin background. So I had my pet rat, which eventually died.
Yeah.
And then
the poor rat.
And then that was my first 2 nat 1s of the session were trying to pick that lock. And then I was, because I'm a smooth talking goblin, I tried to pick the lock, but it's a very special, particular magical lock I cannot open.
Yeah.
I don't think Pith attempted to after that.
Because part of that was I rolled okay on the deception that it was a really special lock.
I know, if only he humbled himself a little bit. If Zob was only going to tell the truth, then Pith might have actually made an attempt to unlock it and could have. Because in other games, that same character was pretty good at unlocking things.
And the other thing is, you told me I broke the lock on the second go, too.
That was right. And you didn't want to admit you'd broken the lock.
So then broke the pick off inside of the lock, and it's kind of stuck.
So then we keep circling around trying to find other side entrances because we don't want to go through the main gate because
and then we can't go through the great sewer.
Yeah, our Gorgon character was afraid of being like attacked, and we weren't sure that they would be.
Not to mention huge xenophobic.
Yeah, because I think we had rolled history like on the city to like see if they would be like offended by the Gorgon. Oh yeah, like super would have been super racist.
Not even that. Eureka was super racist.
Oh yeah, she was racist herself.
Didn't like almost anyone, humans and people who develop cities. Absolute trash. Yeah,
and pretty much the only person she did like was Alien the Gnome. For some reason, which he did not understand. Then, as we were searching, we saw this like hooded, shadowy figure like look at us and then dash away, and then disappear into the side of a hill. I think Pith was like army crawling along
the rolling slopes in the plain just outside the wall.
Yeah, and then he ended up falling through this like illusory tunnel entrance, and we found a secret underground Deus Ex Machina entrance into the sewers of the.
I remember there was a
city.
gelatinous cube down there.
Oh, yeah.
Was it gelatinous cube or was it like ochre jelly?
It was a
Gelatinous
cube.
cube.
Yeah.
Armor was getting eaten.
Yeah, because I remember Pith was leading the way because he was the one who originally found it, and he was the only one apparently who remembered to bring torches. So he lit his torch, he's leading the way, and all his armor and like weapons get utterly destroyed by the gelatinous cube.
I was feeling so bad because he was like picked on twice in a row now.
Yeah, because he got downed and then he had all his armor eaten.
He was almost perma-dead just from the first fight of the whole thing. And now his armor stuff is gone.
His AC was then 10, right? Yeah, 10.
No, he did have a positive dex, so I think it was 11 or 12.
Yeah,
Right.
So he had an okay AC, but not
Spectacular.
a spectacular like he'd had, and his
Yeah,
shield
was
was
like
also
15
gone.
with the male armor.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing is everyone else was wearing either no armor or leather.
Yeah.
Because I would only have leather. You were completely unarmored.
Yeah, I just had a
Barbarian.
shirt, a white shirt and leather pants.
Right, and then Yuriza, just regular, which druids can't wear metal armor, so she obviously didn't have metal armor.
Yeah, and we, after that whole encounter in Pith, I can't remember if we long rested in the sewers or what we.
I don't think we had to.
We short rested.
We came up to, there was like a house with people in it, and we kind of rolled through them at an okay pace, despite that. And then I think we may have rested up there, and then Pith took their armor and weapons.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because that's where we get introduced to the two other characters we meet. Because there was what's the thing that you have to enter to go into a basement?
What, a cellar door?
Yeah, cellar door. There was the secret passage we had opened up to these cellar doors that was the basement of a house inside Underhill. And when we opened the doors, because we could hear people talking on the other side, we basically just burst through the doors.
Elves, specifically.
Yeah, there was two elves tied together in, children, don't listen to this. Tied together in their skivvies. And
tied back to back, sitting in the center of the floor.
Yeah, and one of them was Dusty, eventually to become Dusty the Red-Handed, but that's a different story for a different time. Dusty, our champion fighter.
Yep.
And then we also had Trill.
Which was our friend's character, also an elf, and he was a rogue.
Yeah, I believe he ended up being an arcane trickster.
Yeah.
So, because he liked using green flame blade a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, we helped free them. They got back their clothes. We're like, hey, you want to hang out with us? And for some reason, just the excuse of being able to play with people in D&D. Oh, yeah, we'll hang out with you.
Yeah, sounds very persuasive.
Yeah. Right. So at that point, I guess it ended up being that was some kind of thieves guilds place, and they had gotten kidnapped by the thieves guild. And so after we took our short rest or long rest, I can't remember which it was, we ended up leaving the house. And right when we left the house, there was this sergeant who had a pseudo dragon and heavy armor on. Yeah. And Pith got very jealous because it was very pretty armor, and also the guy had a pet pseudo dragon, which was one of Pith's top 10 bucket list, pun intended, things to do. Creatures to tame and have as a pet. So we ended up fighting him, and I think Pith had tried to knock out the pseudo dragon to save it, but I think Allian in his rage accidentally bisected it because he couldn't stop his battle lust.
Right. His bloodlust kept him going, and he chopped down the poor little guy.
I remember you describing it thusly. Poor little thing.
Yeah. I don't know if you'd consider that lucky or unlucky, but that was just I had a table of different compositions of patrolling guards and that was the one I had rolled for meeting guys down the side alley there.
Yeah.
And the veteran was a decent fight, and that pseudo dragon unfortunately would have made a great pet, but
I think if I remember correctly, when Pith was stealing the armor and putting it on, because he had put on leather armor from the thieves, but then he's like, "Oh, I've got plate mail here. I'm just gonna put that on."
Level up.
Yeah, it was actually the captain of the guards. He found papers in there that was actually the captain of the guards armor, or the guy that we had killed was the captain of the guard. And then we moved on to a different part of the city, which was very vacated and lots of piles of bodies. Some sickness had come through.
Yep, you managed to make your way over towards the very poor ward of the city. I at that point in time, I was reading a lot of city and town structure according to the actual D&D books, and they were talking a lot about having different city wards and groups. People live here and groups of people live there. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, yes, this is the poor and destitute, vague, riddled part of the city.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us as DMs definitely structure our cities like that. In the games that I'm running right now, aside from Icefire, which they're not in one of the bigger cities, but of course Neverwinter does have poor wards and such. But when I build my cities, I make sure it's there's a segregation in place. It's okay, you went to the good part of the town to get this, and then you're looking for something that's offbeat. You go to that part of the town, and you can tell that's okay. We're in the rich, gentrified.
That's why you have to pay through the nose for that specific item.
And then I also do that with my port structurings too. Okay, this is the docks, but you have the area where it's fishermen and small ships. And then you have where there's the cruise ship dock where it looks all pretty.
Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, not sponsored.
You want the eyesores to be on one side of the dock and then a wall.
A thick, invisible wall of just betterness.
Yes. I like to imagine that in the D&D universe, all the architects are somewhat magical. They can cast minor illusion for, you don't want to see that giant bundle of crates that just came in full of rotten bananas. So we're just gonna make it look like a skyline.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot that Zob, because I took prestidigitation, and so anytime I would hide, I would minor illusion a box, and then just hide in the box.
Yeah, you pretend, and we would both, me and the goblin, would hide in the box. Eventually, I think
because it's a 5x5 space. I mean, we're small creatures.
We can just cuddle up in there,
Solid and liquid snake hanging out in the box,
hanging out in our boxes. But I think at a certain point, you were just. I don't know if you were just tired of us hiding in the box, but you had people roll really good Arcana checks to see through the box illusion.
Well, no, the minor illusion has a fairly low save, at that level. I think it's a 12 that I had.
Yeah.
And so you only have to pass that once, and then this is an illusion, and there's... The thing is, you know that it's an illusion. You can then just whack at it with whatever.
Yeah. So, we had some fun hijinks with boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I remember just pointing at myself and saying, "Box."
Box.
It's what are you doing? What's the party doing? How are you preparing?
I'm putting myself in a box. Thanks.
Yeah, that's right. That became the most commonly tossed around phrase at the table for a while. Oh, I'm putting myself in a box.
Yeah, and then I remember the pun that we freaking looked around. Just think outside the box.
Yeah. That was Pith. Pith was trying to pull you aside and can you actually work with the group and think outside your box? And usually in the middle of him saying that, you'd box because you were avoiding the awkward conversation. But yeah, I also remember when we were camping out in one of the abandoned houses in that poor ward. Our Gorgon druid Eureka specifically we had to keep persuasion checking her not into burning down the whole city.
That's
because she considered this city is so filthy and evil and
abomination
and so much metal, and it's hurting nature. And look at all these dead people. They're not helping the people either. And so I think at one point we all were doing something.
We were at that point we had left. We left to do the bucket quest, and Eureka stayed there.
Yeah.
And then she started lighting everything on fire. And so guards were coming. Captain Waffles had said at that point the guards were coming because Eureka was burning stuff everywhere, including like the piles of bodies and stuff. And so the guards were running at Eureka, and she was just fending them all off, creating a distraction for all of us that had gone in to grab the bucket.
Yeah.
And at that point, it started getting a little bit of a headache for me because everyone loves it when the party gets split. So now we have this one group that's off trying to do the quest, and now Arisa is off escaping all the flames that she's lighting. And then I think at one point, someone from your group split off to try to backtrack and find Arisa. And then we had like a party of two and a party of two.
And I remember
And a party of one.
and I remember Captain Waffles, you also had to run the like chase scene because we managed to go, we got the bucket. And then on the chase, our rogue, the arcane trickster, he had cast Major Illusion, so a big moving dragon, which everything failed to see that it was an illusory dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're all running away, and we got away fine.
The part you're forgetting, Darcy, though, is that after Alien had gotten one bucket up of the superpower magic juice, he tried to get another bucket
for himself.
And I rolled a nat 1. And so you were thinking about just making me fall in and like die or become like the Hulk or something. I don't know. But you decided to be kind, and my foot like got caught on the rope, and I was just dangling there in the well. So basically, the party had to waste time and try to save me, or they could have just left me behind and have me be taken by the guards.
So
which I believe Pith came back and caught me.
We've been jumping around a little bit, getting ahead. But when the group, Teresa may or may not have been there, but when the main group got towards the well where they were supposed to go, I think you had the bucket at that point.
Yep.
Found an appropriate one. And there was this group of people all clustered around, and it seemed like there was some sort of demonstration happening.
Yeah, there was some kind of almost like weird cult ritual
Yeah.
going on where they were giving people the water and weird stuff was happening.
Yeah, like some people were being cured, other people were being struck down from it. And at that point, I just wanted to, in my own mind, demonstrate that this is, well, I had a pattern, and it was kind of a puzzle. I wanted you to figure out that anybody who went to collect the water for selfish means, it was a poison for. Anyone who fetched it for another person, it was good. And that was the magic behind it. But everyone sees one person dies, and it's just all of a sudden deer in the headlights look. Everyone's like, I'm not touching that well. I'm like, all right, Pith, you go and do it. You be the one who dies and gets. But then no, everyone's pointing fingers.
And then it ended up being me because I was the barbarian.
Yeah. So eventually, the church cult, they had to clear out a little bit, and then some of the crowd dispersed. And then when the time was right, you went in.
Yeah, I feel like we made some kind of scene because I remember there was at one point like they're just the cult leaders were getting really mad and just yelling at us and screaming at us, and they were calling the guards because someone had like pissed someone off or something like that. And so that's when Alien's like, okay, I'll quick do it.
Yeah, and so now the guards getting agitated because, hey, look, those guys just took from the well, and you tried to go a second time. So the group has to free Alien while he's dangling there and then take off. But what also helped was Euresa's fires lighting half the city up.
So there was half as many guards.
Exactly. So then when that brilliant play of the major illusion of the dragon went off, that draws off the rest of them, and the party can kind of catch their breath for a moment.
For most people in this group, except for like a select few, this was either their first time playing D&D or the first time they had played D&D in like 20 plus years.
Yeah, like Trill, for instance, that was his first time actually playing D&D.
Yeah.
So it's always really great when one of your new players reads their spells and then is using it in a way that 100% makes sense, and they roll appropriately. Everybody fails the save. It wins the day.
Yeah.
Like that, as a DM, that is like one of my favorite experiences to give a new player.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
I just realized every single game I've ever DM'd, somebody's a pyromaniac.
Somehow fire is used to your disadvantage.
Back in school with you guys, everyone, there's always one guy who lights like a whole forest on fire.
It's really funny though to me that that's the default thing that everyone does, because fire is the most resisted element in all of D&D.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so fun. I mean, Fireball spell as a College of Lore bard is kind of a great go-to for cleaning up large areas. So I understand entirely, and yes, I see you, I hear you.
I think after the minor illusion happened and everyone ran away, we snuck back into the Thieves Guild. We robbed any more gold, or I think it was coppers. You gave us coppers or something that was in the Thieves Guild, and then we ducked out of there and headed back. And I can't remember, Trill and Eureka were having some kind of debate about something. I was saying, now I want to go like beat up that Chowder Man because I had a bad feeling about him. That was what Alien was saying. And Eureka was going to help me in the fight. And
because Eureka really liked Alien.
Yeah, because Eureka really liked Alien. And Trill, our elf rogue, made a deal with her basically that he would give her some mushrooms that he had like found when we were doing something. If she didn't help us, because he really did not want to get into another fight. He just wanted to be in and out. He just wanted to get back and collect whatever bounty that this group had helped save him, that he had been promised a cut of. He just wanted to be in and out. Alien basically just decided, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. When we get back to that Chowder Man, he walks right up to that guy, tastes some, spits it right back out on him, and says, "You're a fraud. There's something not right with you." And you're insulting my chowder. The fight's on. And then, sure enough, the whole stand collapses down like something you'd see out of maybe Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And he just super morphs into a giant red lobster, which doesn't make sense because they don't turn red when they're cooked. but he was red nevertheless. And then springing up from around some of the foothills around are a few little bandit boys to help him out. He was cooked from those hot insults.
Maybe he was just red with anger.
And a large majority, I think Trill and Eureka stayed out of the fight because Trill didn't want to fight. He thought it was stupid. And Eureka had made her promise, so she was walking in the other direction towards the teleporter. And we had a special key or something we had to use for the teleporter, and she had it. So basically, if we didn't finish the fight by the time she got back to the teleporter, we'd have to walk, like, I think you said it was something like 1,000 miles or something to get back to the city where we had the quest originally. So it's like, if we didn't finish the combat within a certain number of rounds, you gave us basically like a time limit to do it in, or otherwise we'd be stranded.
It wasn't even necessarily on the same continent. But so that poor large monstrosity lobster eventually went down. And
with a nat 20, I bisected the shell and ate some lobster meat. But I think I had to do a con save, and it tasted really bad, and so I ended up just getting sick and barfing it up.
Don't eat uncooked seafood.
Yeah.
Right?
Bad idea.
So that was kind of on the tail end on the way out. Then caught up to Eureka and managed to get on the teleporter.
And go back to the Buc-ee's.
The Buc-ee's Hall.
And then we give the bucket to the king, and he's very happy, and Alien gets a magically infused great sword that was to his weight. So that he could attack without disadvantage.
It wasn't actually to his weight. It had like a wind enchantment, as you described it.
Right.
So it was as if it's like...
as if it's like the weight of like a rapier or something.
But because it's attuned to you, it's magical property. You don't have to attack the disadvantage.
And basically was a way to work around the
Right.
D&D rules as written, which I appreciated because I really liked the idea of this really, really tiny guy with a massive sword, kind of like the really impractical things that are in anime.
Like Monster Hunter, if you've ever played it.
Yes.
I really wanted to play that kind of character, so it was fun. And then I think there was a couple other magic items that
Zab got a loot that gave +2 to charisma, flat, to the mod, to the stat. But
I thought it was when playing it.
Yes.
Maybe it was
when
permanent.
casting through it or while it's being used.
Right.
So I'd have to
Say you're doing a
Right.
song or whatever.
But the way the bards work is for your inspiration, you're using that. So granted to that, for spells, you're using that as your casting focus.
Mhm.
So anything of that nature it applied to.
Right, which was pretty much everything.
Yeah, basically everything. What Eureka got?
I don't remember, but it didn't really matter because Eureka
I
was
feel like
already.
it was some form of plant or something.
Yeah.
Or no, she got
Spores?
a bag of components because as the
Oh,
player who was playing Eureka later told us she was searching for a way to she had accidentally turned her parents to stone. She wasn't always a Gorgon, but had been cursed by somebody who was basically like a sorcerer who was mad that she had rejected his proposal of marriage, and so he cursed her to become a Gorgon, and then she accidentally turned her parents to stone, and so she was searching for some kind of cure to unpetrify them. So
That's right. Yeah, so a bag of components of different useful, medicinal things that a druid would be interested in.
yeah, and then everything froze, and a new DM was on the scene. The person who had played Eureka was taking over as DM for Captain Waffles because Captain Waffles was just wanting to switch to be a player at that point and it kind of volunteered to get things started. And if you guys have watched White Collar, the guy who stepped through the portal looks like Matt Bomber, main character from White Collar. And it was just basically flowing hair, beautiful armor. And it's like, yeah, you like those gifts? Come with me and you'll get some pretty cool gifts as well. And everybody was just kind of like, oh, well, we feel like we're being railroaded down this trail. So yeah, we'll hop in.
But avarice always helps incentivize people too.
Yeah. And so we hop through. Captain Waffles ends up joining the party as another druid named, well, you can introduce yourself.
Phil the druid.
Phil Robertson, the druid.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a trademark thing from Duck Dynasty or not, but modeled after him. Yeah, kind of older guy with a long flowing white beard. And yeah, just knows the woods really well. Not a Gorgon or anything too crazy. I was just like, I'm going to just go do it.
No. And the adventure that we ended up going on this guy pulled us through the portal, we can talk about another time. And I want to thank you both for coming on BREADBOX with me again and talking about these great things.
Yeah.
Bringing up some fun memories. Blast from the past.
Oh, yeah. I have an announcement for you guys. I forgot to mention at the beginning, but maybe with editing magic, we can add this in.
At the beginning.
At the beginning.
Welcome to BREADBOX, everyone.
Welcome to BREADBOX, everyone. Fun fact about me, we're on Spotify now. So go check that out. Good way to support the channel. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Peace
I'm
out,
Darcy Driver.
And I'm the faceless Captain Waffles.
Sentient waffle on the wall.
Waffle on the wall.
Until next time.
Yeah.